Welcome everybody to the chapter 4, the monetary system, what it is and how it works. This is like the structure of this chapter. We once more follow the structure of the textbook, and these are the learning goals. After you have worked through this chapter, you should be able to distinguish important terms such as monetary base or money supply. You should be able to explain how money is created and which factors and what kind of agents influence the money creation process. And you should be also able to explain how the central bank can influence the money creation process, but you should also be able to talk about some limiting factors which are not under control of the central bank. In the beginning of chapter 4, once more, fiscal policy and monetary policy are distinguished. It is the government who decides on the fiscal policy and decides upon the two tools, government spending and taxes. And it is the central banker who decides about the monetary policy. The government consists out of elected representatives, but the central banker or like the board of the central bank is not elected directly by the public, but it is the case that the government is setting up the board of the central bank. So the central bank is set up by elected representatives like the government. And afterwards, the central banker should be allowed to operate independently so that the government should be more or less neutral with respect to the decisions of the central bank. So it should be the case that the government does not intervene and does not interfere with the decisions of the central banker. Of course, for example, the president of the US, Trump, he does not stick to this rule and he always wants to influence the central banker and wants to give like good advice to the central banker. Like the behavior of President Trump is a counter example to this kind of principle that the central banker should operate independently. In this chapter, once more, we have a long run focus on money supply. The short run focus will be covered in chapter 10. And the central questions of this chapter are: what is money? How do commercial banks affect money supply? And how does the central bank control or influence money supply? First of all, it is important to distinguish wealth and money. Money is not equal to wealth. One counterexample, for example, is stocks. Like the stocks of a company, they belong to the wealth of a private household, but they are not regarded to be money. Money has the following functions. It should be a measure in order to store value. Money can only fulfill this criterion in case that the inflation rate is pretty low, so that price stability is guaranteed. Money also functions as a unit of account. Like, for example, it is the case that all the prices in a supermarket are quoted in Danish krona or are quoted in euros. Furthermore, it's also the case, and when it comes to bookkeeping, then we are doing our bookkeeping in Danish krona or euros. We are not doing our bookkeeping in bitcoins, for example. Furthermore, money should also be a medium of exchange. So when we go into a shop, we are expecting that the shop owner accepts our Danish krona, and sometimes we also expect that the shop owner accepts euros. So for example, once more, when it comes to Hasmark Grill and Mini Golf, the tourists expect that the euro is a medium of exchange at Hasmark Grill and Mini Golf. So let's have a look at different assets and check whether this is money. Cigarettes. Like normally nowadays we would say no, but when you have read the textbook, it was mentioned in one focus box that also cigarettes can serve as money. They were talking about war times where cigarettes were used as a kind of money. Let's switch to the ECU. Like the ECU is a EU currency before the euro was introduced. Is the ECU money, or was the ECU money? I would say no, it was not money because of the fact that it was not used in stores. We did not use the ECU to make our bookkeeping, and it was also not a medium of exchange because the ECU was never printed in form of coins and notes, and therefore nobody was using it as a medium of exchange. Therefore, I would say no, ECU is not money. Bitcoins. Is Bitcoin money? Like, my perspective is also no, it is not money. It is an asset, definitely. When you have a lot of Bitcoins, you are also a wealthy person, yes, but it's not money. It's not money because of the fact that it's not a medium of exchange. You cannot buy ice cream or Pölzer at the Hasma Grill and Mini Golf, but it is the case that this is not accepted. Furthermore, the question is whether you can store value of the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is highly variable. Like the value of the Bitcoin can change dramatically within seconds, and therefore also the first function of money is not fulfilled by a Bitcoin. Then also we can talk about debit cards and credit cards. Credit cards is not money as mentioned in the textbook, and debit cards are also not money, but here we have to be careful to some extent because like the underlying funds, like the money which is on your current account and which is used by the debit card, this is of course money. Like the funds which are on your account, this is money, but the debit card itself is not money. We could also ask the question whether mobile pay, this payment app, whether this is money. No, it's not money because only the underlying funds which are on your account, this is money, but not the measure of payment. Like mobile pay app is not money. Then in the textbook, we also distinguish fiat money. Fiat money is money without intrinsic value, established by the government, established by a government decree or fiat. Therefore, we call it fiat money. Or we can talk about commodity money, money which has some intrinsic value, for example, gold or silver coins, or even copper coins. They have an intrinsic value, and therefore we call it commodity money. But fiat money, this is like just the paper which has no intrinsic value. How is the quantity of money controlled? In the textbook, it is mentioned that the Federal Reserve performs open market operations. So when the central bank wants to increase money supply, the central bank will print new money, then will walk over to the bond market and will buy some bonds. Thereby, the liquidity which is in the hand of the private agents increases, and hence money supply increased. The ECB, the European Central Bank, also performs open market operations. Like before the crisis, before 2008, the ECB used predominantly an instrument which is called main refinancing operations, and it's subsumized under the theme conventional monetary policy. And after 2008, the ECB performed unconventional monetary policy, which is also labeled under the term quantitative easing or QE. And there, the ECB is purchasing different kinds of assets. So the ECB performs various asset purchase programs and thereby presses liquidity into the market. In theory, in our theoretical models, we also talk about helicopter money. So the main idea is that we work with this metaphor. So the central banker prints new money, then boards a helicopter, is flying over the economy, and then is distributing additional money. So in theory, we frequently use this term helicopter money. What about in practice? In practice, also, helicopter money is important. For example, there's one nickname, Helicopter Ben. It is the nickname for this guy here, Ben Bernanke. And Ben Bernanke, he was the president of the Federal Reserve, the American central bank, like during the time period of the great financial crisis in 2008-2009. And he did, of course, the following, that he was pressing liquidity into the markets. So he was performing an expansionary monetary policy, and because of the fact that the size of this expansionary monetary policy was tremendous, he received the nickname Helicopter Ben. So we are using this metaphor in the theory, but also in practice. In the last part, I would like to talk about the monetary aggregate M2. M2 is very important in the US, and there are different monetary aggregates. One monetary aggregate is called C. It is the currency, like the notes, the bank notes, which are in the hand of the private agents, like either private households or private companies. When we add to the banknotes to the currency, the demand deposits, then we end up with the monetary aggregate M1. So demand deposits, these are the funds which are available on your checking account, like which you can use with your DAN card or by using the mobile payment app. When you add to M1 some money market papers, the saving deposits and the time deposits, then you end up with the monetary aggregate M2. The monetary aggregate M2 is very important in the US. This is the end of part 4.1, what is money, and we'll proceed in a second video, the remaining part of this lecture.